Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, friends, family, and other random passers-by. Today, I'm going to play Talisman of Death for the second time. Now, this is Fighting Fantasy Gamebook number 11, and it's not written by Steve Jackson or Ian Livingstone. This one, it is written by somebody else. The style is quite different. The world is quite different. This book takes place. You have been transported from Earth to a strange universe called Orb, or a strange world called Orb, and you've been tasked, apparently by the gods themselves, to sort something out and protect the world from evil. Yeah, the usual stuff. Save the world. Stop evil. Yeah. And it's quite a thick book, this one. It's got a lot more words than your average fighting fantasy game book. But it seems quite well written, and I was enjoying this last time. But there's something about it too. It's a little bit sort of... I'm not sure exactly if my choices are correct or not. And also, sometimes it feels like you're given a choice and something happens, but I'm not sure if actually it makes a big difference what I did. In a strange kind of way. I can't really put my finger on it, but that's, yeah. So I'll find out more about how it is structured, of course, as I'm playing it, because I will make other choices this time and last time. Also, sometimes just out of plain curiosity, because I'm still not sure what are the best choices. So, without too much further ado, let's get started on Talisman of Death. You. Okay. So here we are, down on my desk with my usual supplies. I've got my character sheet to be. I've got my book. I've got my map from last time. And as you might recall, if you saw my last episode, I had run out of squared paper. I only had the graph paper, which I don't actually like so much because it's harder for me to do the right sizing of the squares. I've got a new pad now of of squared paper for later, but I got these 3 sheets of mapping from my first playthrough, and I'll probably be able to do quite a bit with just those 3 sheets. I've got my dice, pens, and pencil. Got my cup of tea today. Earl Grey, not so hot anymore because I made this probably 15 minutes ago. Another little tea tip, by the way. If you're not sure you're going to drink your tea right away, and also when you're brewing your tea, cover it with something. I've got this this metal lid here. I'll just keep... just carefully, it doesn't drip too much now. I'll just keep it on top of my cup while I'm brewing to keep it hot, which means it brews better. And also, if I leave my cup for a few moments, I can also put the lid back on to make it stay warm for longer. Although that said, a good cup of tea actually tastes quite nice when it's cold as well. I mean, there is such a thing as iced tea, and it's still quite nice. Now I managed to drip a little bit on my map. It will dry out eventually. I've also got some water on standby because I do get quite a dry throat when I'm doing this with all this reading out loud. I am getting more used to it, but still it is thirsty work, as I say. Okay, so let's get started here. Yes, that's just standard abilities first of all. Let's see, we've got... I had very good abilities last time. And there were some battles, but I'm sure that some of them are also quite avoidable. So I don't know, still not sure how high abilities need to be for this to be an easy playthrough once you know the right path. So skill, acceptable 10, stamina 5 or 17, luck also 10. That's fine. And let's see, what else did we have in this one? I can't remember now. You also got 10 provisions, Each provision, of course, gives you 4 stamina back. And you can only eat them when you're not in battle. You also have a potion, and I'll go with a potion of stamina, or a potion of strength, that is, as it's called in the Fighting Fantasy rule set, but I don't like that term because it sounds like it also could be skill. So I'm going to call it a potion of stamina. And there's 1 dose, and you cannot use that in battle either. Right. So here we are. I am ready to go. Are you ready to go? Well, in that case, let's go. If you're not ready to go, there is such a thing as a pause function on YouTube that you may use right now. I'll just wait a bit. You ready? Okay. You are regaining consciousness. Your eyes flutter open to the sound of a songbird, trilling joyously. You are lying on a couch of green velvet set on the topmost turret of a great white castle hanging in the clouds. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it, how you just wake up, and the first thing you know is that you're in a turret in a castle. Yeah, okay. Rising to your feet, you look around. The songbird, whose sleek feathers are a warm burnished gold, is perched on the battlements, resplendent against the ocean blue canopy of a sky in which there is no sun. You are clad in strange, outlandish clothes, breeches of dark green leather and a thickly quilled leather jerkin. On your feet are russet red calfskin boots, supple and comfortable, into which the breeches are tucked at mid-calf. A heavy sword is belted at your side, and with a shock you realize that somehow you know how to use it skillfully and with deadly force. As the songbird trills, you try in vain to recall memories of Earth, but everything is hazy and distant. You have been taken from the world you know and trained in the art of swordplay. You cannot remember even who trained you or why. But the hilt of the sword fits your hand snugly. Drawing it, you lunge and parry, marveling at how the sword cuts through the air faster than the eye can follow. The songbird seems unperturbed by your fine display of swordsmanship, but you are surprised when it cocks its head and speaks to you, its voice fluting merrily. Welcome, champion of fate. Do not be dismayed. You are not yet in danger. Where am I? You ask, feeling as if you are in a dream. Far, far from your home, I fear to say. This is the world of Orb, and you are in the garden of the gods. What is Orb? You demand. You will find it most strange and full of wonder, for it is very different from Earth. Men must share it not just with talking creatures such as I, but with weird and fell monsters, giants, dragons, and demons. There are warlocks and sorcerers, too, great wielders of magic in the cities. But do not fear, you have been chosen to be our champion, for you are more likely to succeed than any other on Earth. Now I must complete my task. Come, my masters bid you join them in the chamber below. Please follow me. With that, the golden songbird flutters away down a spiral staircase. Shaking your head in confusion, you descend the stone steps into a large circular room where 2 beings turn towards you. Welcome, says one, a pale female figure enfolded in a swirling robe of many colors, above which you can only see a perfectly smooth and hairless head. The robe shimmers, its colors shifting as she steps towards you, catching your mind before you realize what is happening. Looking into her face, you see an image of yourself fighting for your life inside a huge temple. Then the image shifts and you see yourself leaving a walled city, hastening alone across a desolate moor, only to find yourself deep in a jungle surrounded by devils with blue skins. Your nape bristles as you realize that she is revealing glimpses of your destiny. It is only when they are over that you notice she has no eyes in her smooth, pale face. The other figure changes even as you look at him. At one moment he is an ancient, white-haired man. heavy with knowledge. At another, an infant, wise beyond his years. The metamorphosis through youth to age takes but a few instants, yet flows so smoothly you cannot see the features change. His voice is soft and ageless. We have summoned you here to the world of Orb because we wish to prevent a fatal upset in the balance of nature. The cosmic scales have been tipped too far, and you must play a part in righting them. It is not for us in the garden of the gods to set things right. We cannot fight him who would bring chaos to Orb. Rather, we use men as our tools. I shall not say whether you will succeed. The floor of the room upon which you are standing is the most realistic and detailed map imaginable. You can even see small figures tilling the fields and walking the streets of an entire world. A world of pinnacled castles, knights on horseback, their men-at-arms bearing banners which stream in the wind, and strange high-walled cities with towers and spires, concealing the dives of assassins and thieves amongst the splendour. The eyeless immortal steps forward, her robe now the colour of the deep sea, and caresses your cheek. We are sending you down to the surface of Orb. If you fall into the clutches of death, we cannot aid you. Do not fail us. Fail in what? You begin to ask. But just then, to your horror, you find yourself being drawn inexorably towards a black crack in the map. The realization that your destiny is being tampered with angers you, and you resolve to find a way back to Earth and your home at any cost. As the world of Orb rises up to engulf you, the awesomeness of what is happening overwhelms you and you lose consciousness. Now, just a little point here. It says that you realize that your destiny is being tampered with, but the very definition of destiny is that that is what is meant to happen. So the only one who can try to tamper with your destiny is yourself, and if you try to do so, usually it just causes destiny to happen, because that is how it works when you have gods that work in this kind of way, because it's just like in sort of ancient Greek mythology. And I'm actually meaning to make a video about that, because the concept of hubris and how the point of Greek tragedies is all very sort of closely interlinked with how the gods and men are connected in the ancient Greek world. But I'll get to that some other time. But this does remind me a little bit of a sort of a Greek pantheon style thing where the gods are intending things for men, you might say, and it is if it is meant to happen, it does happen, and if you try to prevent it from happening, that is also how it triggers the events that make it happen. So anyway, when awareness returns, you look around. You are standing in a huge vaulted chamber deep underground. In the chill air, you wonder what terrible fate may be in store for you. You are utterly alone, without a friend in the world, and you have no idea what fiendish horrors may exist here. It's a bit cliche, isn't it? Without a friend in the world. So far from home. There are no windows in the chamber, no natural light, only the ruddy glow of flaming torches that are fixed to pillars soaring beyond sight. Yeah, torches. Yeah, nobody leaves torches hanging around. That is a movie trope. It only exists in Hollywood, and because people did it in Hollywood, then people have been starting to do it in fantasy fiction as well. Torches are, yeah, no, that's not. You don't do that with torches. Anyway. The walls are running with damp, the air musty and heavy with age. There are 2 archways at the back of the cavern. Before you can investigate further, the torchlight flickers and the cool gust chills you to the marrow. Something in the unseen darkness is causing the air to move. A light flashes briefly ahead, and an infernal howling echoes across the vast vault. No living thing could possibly have made that dreadful sound, you think to yourself. But then you remember that you know nothing of the dreadful denizens of Orb. You hear the sound of running footsteps, approaching rapidly. You cannot yet see who or what is coming. Will you run through the nearest archway or hold your ground and draw your sword? So last time I held my ground and drew my sword. Maybe this time I'll just, for fun, try to run through the nearest archway just to see what is there. I'm sure I'll end up in the same place anyway. As you dash towards the forbidding blackness of the archway, you hear a click followed by a rumbling sound ahead. The floor beneath your feet begins to tremble. Do you want to hurl yourself through the archway into the darkness or stop your headlong flight? So we've got two options. So either hurl yourself, so 41 hurl. I am in shot, yes, just double checking now. Or 21 stop. I'll hurl myself through, see what happens. Okay. Before you can charge through the archway, a slab of smooth rock slams down from above, with a sound like a clap of thunder that reverberates around the cavern. It blocks the archway completely. Unfortunately, you cannot stop in mid-leap. You crash sickeningly into the stone with bone-jarring force. Lose 2 stamina points. Okay, so... feeling somewhat groggy, you pick yourself up and realize that the other archway is similarly sealed. Seeing you have no option, you turn to face the oncoming footsteps and draw your sword. So all this was just a roundabout way to make you do the same thing. So again, that holds to my theory that your fate is not your own, but how you choose to meet it, I guess, might be. So, so this brings us back to paragraph 13 down here, which is the same as waiting. A woman wearing chainmail and carrying a loaded crossbow bursts into the torchlight ahead of you. Seeing you, she immediately points the bow in your direction. 3 men, panting heavily, appear behind her. The first, a tall and handsome man, is dressed in shining silver armor, and the blade of his 2-handed sword glows with a faint white radiance. The next is dressed in a flowing robe of cloth of gold, and wears a smiling golden mask. He carries an ivory staff. The last is a thick-set man with a white surcoat over chainmail. A red cross adorns his breast, and a spiked mace hangs at his side. They stop. Once again you hear a wailing louder than before. "They are almost upon us," cries the man with the glittering sword. The shield maiden calls to you. "Who are you, and what are you doing here in the rift, the spawning place of all evil?" Will you say you have come from another world? Say that you are on a quest against evil, or try to play for time, or attack the shield maiden. So what did I do last time? I said that I was on a quest. I am going to, and for some reason that apparently was a lie, even though I am on a quest, sort of. So I'm going to say I'm come from another world this time, because they can tell if I'm lying or not, so I might as well just blurt out the truth right away. Her eyebrows rise in surprise. All 4 of them look at you in disbelief. The man in gold turns to the priest in the white surcoat and asks, "Is it the truth?" Knowing your story to be true, you decide to wait while the priest casts a spell. "It is the truth," he says, and spoken from a true heart. The shield maiden lowers her bow and moves over to guard the entrance of the caves. "What are we to do? The exits are blocked, and I have only the power to teleport one of us out now," says the man in gold. "Perhaps this warrior has been sent by the gods to continue the quest. Sensing the goodness in these people, you wait to hear how you can aid them." Turn to 100. So we have... So far it looks like the correct path, and I'll just circle those, is there. Okay. So I'm going to 100. The priest steps towards you and tells you this story. "Long ago, the minions of the god Death in the city of the Runes of Doom fashioned a talisman that would allow them, if the time was right, to summon their god to the surface of this world. That time has now come. If death is summoned, all life will cease. Only death's minions will continue to exist in an awful half-life. His presence will spread like a grey shadow across the world of Orb. Everything will turn to dust, and the balance of nature will be disrupted forever. The lawmasters of Serokub, a group of holy people, have striven to prevent this. They sent a group of crusaders, of which we four alone survive, on a quest to steal the talisman. The fleshless king of the minions of death had sent the talisman to the depths of the rift for safekeeping. We have entered this pit of evil and seized it. He pulls a necklace out from under his surcoat. On it hangs a disc of obsidian, in the middle of which is a skull carved in ruby. The Talisman of Death. He hands it to you. Here, for the sake of all Orb, you must take this talisman and continue the quest. It cannot be destroyed, but if you can take it to your world, it will be beyond the reach of the claw of the fleshless king. You are impressed by the courage and unselfish fortitude of these people and resolve to continue the quest. You take the talisman. It feels cold and heavy around your neck. The wizard turns to you and says, I am going to use the powers of magic to transport you to the surface. Head west until you come to the City of Learning, Grey Guilds on the Moor, where you may discover a way to return to your own world. Do not fail us. Here, take this gold. It may be of use. It gives you a purse with 10 gold pieces in it. Okay, so gold, 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 gold. 10. Okay. As the wizard prepares his spell, a horde of creatures boils into the cavern. Turn to 125. Dark elves and cave trolls are pouring into the cavern, attacking the shield maiden. As the paladin and priest rush to her aid, you see a huge shadowy form looming behind the sea of elves and trolls. The paladin's glittering sword cuts through the horde, but the dark elves are using magic, and the shield maiden is unable to turn back their attack. She falls beneath their onslaught. The huge fiend howls triumphantly, just as the wizard completes his spell. Turn to 185. Sounds a bit like a Balrog or something. Okay. 185. Suddenly you are in blinding sunshine. You are standing at the lip of an immense chasm. You realize that this must be the rift the Crusaders spoke of. The rocky earth is blackened and cracked, full of pits and fissures, and noisome fumes rise from the depths of the chasm. To the west you see a range of green hills, partially covered in trees and thick woodland. A few hundred meters to your right you can see where a forest begins, extending all the way to the hills. You realize that you must head in the direction of the hills to reach Grey Guilds, but which route will you take? If you go through the forest, turn to 256. If you would rather take the more direct route across open ground, turn to 134. Now, last time I went through the forest, which seemed okay. Today, just for variety and of course to figure out eventually what is the best path through, I'm going to go across open ground. So I'm going to go to 134. You set off across the rocky broken ground towards the hills. After a short while, you notice two armed bands running towards you. The group to the south consists of 20 or more orcs, snarling as they lope purposefully towards you. They are hunched and misshapen, dressed in greasy blackened leather and carrying saw-toothed scimitars. The shields are emblazoned with a purple claw. To the north you can make out a small group of dark elves, similar to those which killed the shield maiden. They are tall and lithe, wearing ornately spiked armor and carrying long swords of a dull black metal. They are some way off, but are closing fast. Will you head for the orcs, head for the elves, run for the hills, or hide? Well, if I'm close enough to see that the orcs are wearing greasy leather armor, I think hiding is a little bit on the late side, to be honest. But let's see. Let's put up my 4 options here now. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we've got 68 orcs, 214 elves, 63 hills, or 148 hide. I'm going to run for the hills because, I mean, Iron Maiden, they can't be wrong, can they, surely? So running for the hills is probably the best thing to do. Run as fast as you can along the rocky ground. Your lungs are burning with the effort. As you approach the hills, you look back and see that both groups are now roughly the same distance behind you. The elves coming from the north are in a tight pack, while the orcs to the south are beginning to string out. Would you head north to meet the elves, climb a hill to the south to face the orcs, or run on? Well, it sounds like now the orcs are easier to combat, but I don't know, it's... So I got now the option of meeting the elves. That's the same as the first one there. Or I got 2 new options, which is 282 hill, 227 run. But if I climb a hill to the south and face the orcs, surely the elves are going to come up behind me anyway. I'm going to run on 227. Your legs are beginning to grow heavy as you reach the gap between 2 hills. You are slowing now and wonder how much longer you can keep this up. Looking back, you are pleased to see that the elves and orcs have met and are engaged in bloody battle. The elves are making short work of the orcs. Strange sparks leap from their hands, killing the orcs instantly. You realize that any respite you have gained will be short-lived, and press on. Over the hill you come to a verdant valley deep in ferns. Turn to 203. Okay, so that seemed like a decent option to take. So 203, okay. I was wondering whether the orcs or elves were trying to kill each other or if they were just after me now. But it's nice to see that the dark elves don't like the orcs. A bit strange though. I would have thought dark elves and orcs were in cahoots as both minions of evil. Oh. When you reach the floor of the valley, you find a pool into which a spring is bubbling. Feeling thirsty after having come so far, you step forward to the pool to drink, where the branches of a gnarled old willow meet the water. Almost immediately you begin to feel strangely sleepy and realize that you are swaying, about to topple into the pool. Test your luck. Okay, so we have test luck. And 36 lucky, or 319 unlucky. And let's roll the dice. Luck is 10, so I need to roll 10 or below. And I rolled 8, and my luck goes down by 1 point. And I am well within shot that. Yeah, good. And I go to 36. 36. You struggle to overcome the drowsiness, and the spell is broken. Looking up, you can see 2 large green eyes staring at you from the trunk of the willow. Before you can step back, you are attacked by the branches of the enraged tree. Oof, enraged trees, you don't want to meet those. You must fight the willow weird. So, the willow weird has got a skill of 8 and a stamina of 20. But if you make 4 successful attacks, turn to 26. So we've got 26. So that's 4. So for 1 rounds. Okay. So I need to win 4 rounds of combat and then something happens. Okay, so my skill and stamina are 10, 15, and the willow is 8, 20. So I got a 2 skill point advantage. So I need to roll, well, he needs to roll 2 better than me, or 3 better than me to actually injure me. So he rolls a 6. I roll an 8, so that is 1 successful attack. He rolls a 10. I roll an 8, so that is a draw. He rolls a 6. I roll a 6. That is my 2nd successful attack. He rolls a 6. I roll a 9. It's my 3rd successful attack. He rolls a 7. I roll a 5. That's a draw again. He rolls a 3 and I roll a 10, so that is, he's down to 12, and that is my 4th successful attack. And I can go to paragraph 26 and see what happens next. With a mighty blow, your sword cuts through one of the willow's branches and some sap from the tree falls onto your arm. The willow gives a low moan, stops attacking and pulls its branches back from you. Will you plunge your arm into the pool or beat a hasty retreat? So we've got 39. Retreat or 161 pool. I'm going to put my arm in the pool, I think, because I don't know, the sap could be quite nasty, couldn't it? So, for all I know, let's try that. Before you plunge your arm into the water, you notice that the sap from the tree is healing a small graze in your wrist. You realize it has healing powers and decide to collect some more sap from the branch you cut from the tree. You may use the sap of the willow to restore 4 stamina points once when you think it will help the most. Moving quickly away from the spring, you decide to follow the small river that runs through the valley, heading west. So I've now got willow sap, and that is +4 stamina. And it says when you think it will help the most, which actually doesn't exclude using it in battle, interestingly. Right. So, okay. And we go to 39. Oh, that's the wrong one. Nice. You wend your way along the bank of the river that runs west from the spring and leave the ferns behind. The terrain has become a little more open now. Looking back, your heart quickens as you catch sight of one of the dark elves sniffing at your trail. He moves with a lithe swiftness which would seem graceful if it wasn't for this spiked black armor and deadly expression. While you are watching, he stands up and points in your direction. They are not far behind. You must decide quickly. Will you run along the riverbank, plunge into the river and run along for some distance before scrambling up the bank, or hide in a clump of bushes? But it does sound like they're tracking me, as if they are, well, bloodhounds themselves. So probably plunging into the river and running along the river for some distance is one of your classical ways of getting somebody off your scent trail. So that is probably what I will do. I'll just put up the options here. So we've got 1, 2, and 3 options. And it's 3, 5, 9, 2, 5, 3, or 307. And that is hide, river, along the river. I'm going to try to plunge into the river and run along and then scramble up the bank and see if that works. 250. See if I can get them off my track. The river winds between the hills. You wade along it, knowing that the Dark Elves will lose your scent in the water. After a while, you climb out on the other side of the river and continue on your way. 33, 31. Although that is technically not true. I mean, they would have still been able to smell me, because the way the river works is if you have something that needs to sniff the ground, like any kind of canine would do, like a dog, they will sniff the ground on your tracks and get a scent from there. Now, these Dark Elves, they don't sniff the ground, they sniff the air, which means that wouldn't make a difference at all. It depends on the wind direction, rather. So, anyway. I will do some suspension of disbelief and ignore that, of course, as I usually do. There's always a lot of that going on in these books. So we've got the torches and we've got the sniffing of the Dark Elves, to sort of slight unrealistic things there, but never mind. So it's all just a bit of fun, isn't it? Right. The river flows out of the hills into a wide plain where it turns north. You strike out west across the wild grasslands. Just when you think you have finally lost your pursuers, you notice a group of figures closing fast. Cursing under your breath, you realize that they are on to you again. Doggedly, you force yourself on, but the strain takes its toll. Lose 2 stamina points. Just as you are steeling yourself to turn and face your fell adversaries, you see a cloud of dust ahead. You can soon make out a group of 20 horsemen. They wheel their steeds towards you, and the drumming of hoofs carries to you over the breeze as they canter in your direction. Seeing this, the elves seem to give up the chase and fall back, obviously unwilling to encounter the riders. You are thankful to see the back of them and decide to wait for the riders to approach. As they get nearer, you can see that this is a band of warrior women clad in chainmail and studded leather armor. Their faces look grim and unwelcoming as they wheel around you, forming a close circle. The captain spurs her horse forward and tersely demands what you are doing out here, along the edge of the moor. What will you do? And now this is the same as paragraph 65. And the options are actually the same. So I'm going to go here now and move this up there. So these are exactly the same options. It looks like here, 101, 73, 322, 35, and 95. Yes. So now I've gone, this bit here has brought me to this place here where I was last time. So I've got asked them to aid me in my quest. Another world. Caravan. Let's see. Pretend that you are deaf and dumb. Demand they escort you. Right. Maybe I'll tell them too that I'm from another world just to see what happens. So I'm going to go to 73. The captain's brow furrows as you tell your story. There's some muttering from her companions, which she silences with a quick gesture. We must take you to Hakona and Grey Gills. She will want to speak with you. Climb up behind Elvira here and give me your sword. She points to one of the younger women. Will you hand over your sword and get on the horse? Or refuse, saying that you would rather make your own way? So, same options as the one I did last time, it turns out. So I will just give up my sword and get on the horse, because if you don't, you end up there anyway, it looks like. So I'm going to go with 155. There we are. Elvira helps you up behind her. She appears none too pleased at the prospect of sharing her horse with you, and you ride in silence across the wilderness. Lose 2 skill points until you acquire another sword. So that's skill -2. So my effective skill is now 8 until I get another sword. I'm going to 257. Usually it's 3 in these books, so only 2, that is a little bit more generous. You ride on into the late afternoon. Let's see, yes, 257, that's the one there. Okay. You ride on into the late afternoon, moving from the wilderness to a grey and desolate moor. Ahead you can see the walls of a large city. A salute is given as you approach the huge arched gate in the fortified wall. The captain details half her patrol to remain on guard at the gate. Turning to you, she says, "We are taking you to Hakon. She will want to ask you some questions. Do you want to seize the first opportunity to fight your way out, or go quietly and see what happens?" Now, if I go quietly and see what happens, the talisman is taken from me. But I'm thinking that's probably going to happen anyway. Most likely. At least it seems very likely to me. By the way, this is a good time for me to use my Willow Sap and just go back to 17 stamina. And shall I try fighting my way out? It doesn't sound like a good idea, actually. I'm going to go quietly and see what happens. It just feels that what comes next when the talisman is taken from you and you have to go through all that effort trying to get it back, it just seems that that is inevitable and that it has to happen. And so if I resist that now, I think it will still come to pass because that is your destiny. So, yeah. You ride into the city of learning, Grey Guilds, along a street called Moorgate. Many of the buildings are quite grand, built of light grey stone. You see a mixture of people in the streets. There are some men wearing light blue togas who are sages and professors from the guilds of learning. Other groups of young men and women are carrying books and scrolls. You realize that, unarmed as you are no match for these women and have no alternative but to go with them. So, fighting them probably would have been completely futile. So, 351. You are taken along Moorgate, past various food and pottery shops, and then down bustling Store Street. They turn right down Guard Street and come to a halt outside a squat grey building. It is the watch house. The patrol dismounts and you are ushered inside. Turn to 78. Must have some tea before I enter. Ooh. After a short delay, you are taken into a large office. Inside is a tall, striking, raven-haired woman, dressed in the long black cloak, which parts to reveal the polished hilt of a longsword. Her bearing suggests great personal power. She stands and greets you. "I am Hakon, High Priestess of the Temple of Fel Kirinla and Marshal of the Watch. You have been telling some unusual stories." She nods and the guards begin to search you. You try to resist but are held powerless. The talisman is ripped from its place of concealment and handed to Hakon. She recognizes it immediately, and she laughs with rapturous delight. She turns away and says, "I am going to the temple. Throw this fool out into the street." You are hustled out and the door of the watch house slams shut behind you. You have lost the talisman. What will you do next? So, our options are as follows. Go back down Guard Street to Store Street, turn down Smith Street, or walk down the Street of Seven Sins. Now, last time I went down the Street of Seven Sins, and at some point there I managed to get myself a sword, but I'm quite curious to explore a little bit now, so maybe I should go somewhere else. For instance, go back down Guard Street to Store Street and see what is there. But I'm going to explore the city a little bit. You are now in Store Street. It is crowded with shoppers, but your attention is drawn to a woman in green robes, who is looking at you speculatively. Her straight hair is cut fairly short, and she is wearing no ornaments. She crosses the street and asks politely in a quiet but clear voice, "I believe you are a stranger in the city. Who are you, and where have you come from?" Will you tell her that you are on a holy quest and have crossed the wilderness, or say that you are just passing through and start to walk briskly on? So we have our options, which is Holy Quest 198, so quest, or just walk away. Well, I don't feel I've got anything to lose at the moment. I'm going to say I'm on a holy quest, because she's sort of acting as if she already knows who I am and what I'm up to. So I'm going to go with the flow there and say that. So you have come across the wilderness. Did you by any chance come across a man dressed in green robes similar to my own? He would have carried an oak staff and worn a crown of mistletoe. He would have told you his name. Ah, interesting. So this is someone I could have met in the forest, presumably. That is interesting. And if this is... so I'll have to try to meet him next time, I guess. Okay, so... so 3 options. So there is 166, Woadman, 212, Dwithian, or 226, did not meet him. And I did not meet him, so I'm going to say 226. It is a long time since we had news. I am a priestess of the All-Mother, the Fountain of Life. The Druids are our friends. I trust you will enjoy your stay in Grey Guilds. Goodbye, stranger. Now, I did meet him last time, didn't I? Although I can't remember him telling me his name, but I did meet him in the forest last time. So, anyway. Maybe I should sort of aim for that next time I'm playing, to meet the druid in the forest and then meet this priestess here, and maybe she will be able to help me. Right. So you continue down Store Street, turn to 130. So 130. Okay. As you walk along Store Street once more, you notice that the stores are closing. The throng of people hurrying home parts to make way for a large black carriage drawn by 2 black mares. They carry plumed headdresses made of long black feathers. The cloaked coachman stares grimly ahead. You step into the gutter to let the coach pass, and as you do so, the coachman reins in. Inside you see an empty black coffin, but the name inscribed in silver letters on the lid is your own. The door of the funeral carriage opens, and a handsome man with a silver cane steps down. He is dressed in the finest silver satin and sable furs. A storekeeper greets him. He smiles and nods, then turns to you. I am the Envoy of Death. I have come for the Talisman, he says in a voice of doom. As you prepare to resist, a startling transformation takes place, which seems to be ignored by all around. His magnificent furs turn to rags. Where once blue eyes looked out from a finely featured face, now hollow sockets gaze at you from a blackened and cracked skull. His skeletal hand now grips a tarnished rapier. He realized that nobody else can see this transformation. Give it to me, he says. Will you give him the talisman if you have it? Attack him immediately or deny that you have it? Well, I don't have it, so I suppose I may as well deny it. Okay. Options, options, options. So we got 3 options. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so doesn't mean that there's actually a possibility that I could have been here and still had the talisman. Is there some way that I can avoid losing it before getting to town, I wonder? And in that case, I would be able to avoid all that hoo-ha of trying to get it back from Hakon. Anyway. So 220, deny. 271, attack. Or 179, give. I'm going to deny I have it because that is, in fact, the truth. A bit stupid, this death people, aren't they? They don't realize they should be able to sense the talisman. Come on. Lies, it hisses and lunges at you with its rapier before you can move. A chill numbness spreads from the wound and you feel as if your lifeblood is being drained away. Lose 1 skill. So 9, 7, and 2 stamina points. Now you must fight the Envoy of Death. Each time it strikes you, you must lose 1 skill point as well as a normal stamina loss. OMG. Okay. So denying is not a good thing because then he gets first strike, doesn't he? So I suppose attacking is better. Anyway, so 254 if you win, which doesn't sound as likely as I would have liked. So I am currently fighting without a weapon, so I got a skill of 7 and a stamina of 15. And he's got a skill of 8 and a stamina of 6. At least I only have to hit him 3 times, but if he hits me, my chances of hitting him are going to go down drastically. So he rolls 10, I roll 10, which means he hits me, and I'm down to 6, 13. So now he's got a 2 skill advantage. He rolls a 7, and I roll an 8, which would have been fine in the previous round, but now he hits me, and I go down to 5 skill, and I've got 11 stamina left. So he's got now got a 3 skill point advantage. He rolls a 2. Ooh, I got him now. I rolled a 10, so he's down to 4 hit points. And he rolls 4. I roll 6, which means he hits me again, and I'm down to 4 skill points and 9 stamina. It just occurs to me I probably should be using luck for this. Anyway. So every time I hit him, I should use luck now. So he rolls a 5. I need to roll a 9 or better. I roll a 9, so that's a draw, though. He rolls 6. I want to roll 11 or 12. No. So he hits me, and I'm down to 3 skill. This doesn't really look that good. He rolls a 7, I roll an 11, so that is, I'm down to 2 and 5. Basically, I'm screwed. He rolls a 5. I need to roll 12, basically, now. No. So I've got 1 skill and 3 stamina. He rolls a 5, I roll a 3, I'm down to 0 skill and 1 stamina, and finally he rolls a 3 and I roll a 7, so I'm 0 skill, minus 1 skill, and well, I suppose that's 0, and 0 stamina. And that's it. That is a really, really dangerous encounter now. I mean, even if, yeah. And of course you can't give it. I mean, I presume if you got a talisman at this point and you give it to him, then basically the game is over. And this guy, I mean, you really need to have a good skill to start with to be able to beat him, because losing a skill point every time you get hit, that is one of the most dangerous things ever. So I'll just put a little bit of sort of a red asterisk there just to avoid, if possible. But I don't know, there's also a chance, of course, that this may, in some bizarre way, be the correct path. But I just doubt it at the moment. So that's it, really. I bumped into the Envoy of Death, who was quite stupid, thinking I still had a talisman. So I'm a bit surprised, because obviously the only way they could know that I had the talisman is by sort of sensing that I had it. And clearly I didn't have it anymore, and so they haven't updated their information, apparently. So this guy definitely didn't get the memo from the boss. Anyway, that was my second time playing Talisman of Death, and it seems like there are some ways to die in this book. I actually quite enjoyed this one because it is quite different. This battle with the skill loss. Oh, that's quite fascinating. Anyway, I'm really liking the way this book is written, and also so far I must say I actually quite like the structure of it as well. And I do have a few steps in the beginning that I know are the correct ones, but once you get here, I'm not sure. It didn't sound like going into the open territory on the open plains was a very good idea. At least it doesn't seem to give you any advantages, and so probably going through the forest is going to be the one that gives me an advantage, and I'm going to do that next time and sort of stick to that, I think, for the next playthroughs of this book. Did you enjoy that? Well, I certainly did, and I hope you will be looking forward to the next episode. I do have a holiday this week. In fact, I was supposed to go to Norway. Well, to Norway. But yeah, I know there are technically no travel restrictions right now, but any kind of travel by train or plane, it does increase your risk, and therefore it increases the risk for everyone. And so one really shouldn't do it unless one absolutely has to, and I don't absolutely have to, and so I'm not doing it. Instead, I'm going to be sitting at home and playing fighting fantasy books and other such fun stuff, which I'm sure that my subscribers probably can appreciate. That is how I'm spending my holiday, to entertain them and myself, of course, rather than going to the old country. Anyway, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and please like, share, subscribe, comment if you have any comments, of course, and I will see you again in my next episode, which will not be too long, I hope, because I'm really curious to see how this is going to pan out. It's quite a riveting read so far, and I'm really enjoying the way it is written. I must say it is. I would go so far as to say that whoever wrote this are better writers than Ian Livingstone, certainly, and also than Steve Jackson as well. So yes, I don't think that's going out on the limb at all. I think that is just being honest. So anyway, thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.